What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports back again with another one. Gonna talk about Manny Pacquiao, next opponent. His long-time advisor Sean Givens did an interview with Dan Raphael on ESPN.com, and he told Dan that no opponent has been confirmed, despite different media outlets saying that basically Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman is a done deal for July 20th. Sean Givens is saying now there's nothing been confirmed yet. He said all that they confirmed that is Manny will be fighting in July, and the dates that they're looking at are July 13th and July 20th. So he said that's the only thing being confirmed. He said Manny Pacquiao is out on the campaign trail, campaigning for fellow people in this party, trying to get those guys reelected. Out there, working hard for people that's running for elective office in the Philippines. He's campaigning for those guys, and he's right now, that's his sole focus. He said after the May 13th elections that he will sit down with his team and Al Heyman, and they'll come up with a opponent for the month of July. So we'll see what happens. But Sean Givens says, despite reports that the fight has been pretty much finalized between Manny Pacquiao and Keith one-time Thurman, that's not the case. That they're still trying to figure out who they're going to fight. Basically, they haven't even really contemplated on who they're going to fight. They just confirmed the date. It's going to be July, but Manny Pacquiao hasn't sat down with the team and looked at potential opponents. Basically, what he's saying. And I think this means, to me, in my opinion, I think this means basically, Keith Thurman is still the front runner to fight Manny Pacquiao, but I think this cracks the door slightly open for maybe Danny Garcia getting that fight. I still think 75-80% is a chance that Keith Thurman will get the fight, but I think this at least cracks the door open for maybe Manny Pacquiao consider Danny Garcia, because you notice his former trainer, still his trainer, but his former head trainer, now he's just assistant trainer. Freddie Roach has always said that's a fight he loves stylistically. He think that'll be a good fight for Manny. That'll be a crowd-pleasing fight for all the boxing fans, and that would be a fight he would love to make for Manny. So we'll see what happens, man. You look at Danny Garcia's last performance against Adrian Granados. It was a spectacular performance for Danny Swift Garcia. Probably the best he looked since he defeated Lucas Mathise. He fought a great fight, was very aggressive. Granados fought the way he fought. Granados' fight was pretty much tailor-made for Danny. He came right toward Danny, fought Danny in the middle of the ring. He was right in Danny's wheelhouse, and Danny was able to land the left hook, and actually he was landing right hands too. He was basically able to land everything but the kitchen sink, as Adrian Granados should have been using a little bit more movement, but Adrian Granados is a dog that's not in his DNA, and he thought he could basically go head up with Danny and maybe probably wear Danny down and probably outwork Danny, but that wasn't the case. He got dominated in that fight, got hurt early, and never really fully recovered in that fight, and was able to end up getting knocked out. And Danny Garcia looked spectacular. So based on that performance, maybe it's a small chance that he gets to fight with Manny Pacquiao. I'm still sticking by my guns, and I'm still thinking that Keith one-time Garcia will be the opponent for Manny Pacquiao. But Sean Givens, once again, Manny Pacquiao, a long-time promoter, says that no opponent has been confirmed, and Manny is concentrating on his senatorial duties, and he's out there campaigning for fellow officials that's in Filipino government, and he's gonna be worried about that right now and concentrate on that, get 100% full focus to that, and then after May 13th, he'll sit down with his team and Al Heyman and come up with an opponent, and then confirm the date, either July 13th or July 20th. So we'll see what happens in that. Other boxing news today, man. Frank Warren, old blue-eyed Frank Warren, man. That guy there, man. He looked like a promoter. He looked like he could be a game show host or something, man. That guy there is it's funny sometimes, man. The guy, man. He tripped out today. Today or yesterday, they had an article came out. He said, man, I'm laughing. And he said, I laugh at Anthony Joshua, man. Only time he talk about wanting to fight Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder is when they have a fight already lined up. They already have an opponent set. You know, he never comes out and does interviews when those guys are free. That's basically what he said, and it's a little truth behind that. You notice a lot of people are always wondering why, you know, Eddie Hearn is doing all the talking, number one. Why Anthony Joshua, you don't hardly hear him. He goes into deep hibernation. You know, you don't see him, you don't hear from him unless you on his IG post or you're on Twitter. You might see him on a boat with a bunch of dudes or something like that, man. But you don't hear him doing interviews with YouTube boxing media or doing interviews with boxing journalists or nothing like that, man. He's low key, you know, laying low. But you notice after the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight, the draw, he started talking. You know, he knew, Deontay Wilder said right after the fight in the ring that he wanted to have a rematch with Tyson Fury. And Tyson Fury said, he was kind of, deflecting a little bit. He didn't sound like he really was 100% committed to the rematch after that fight. You know, and then here come Anthony Joshua talking. He probably thought to himself, "Oh, they're gonna probably do a rematch. Let me talk and say, oh no, well, let's fight. Let's have unification. I offer you this, I offer you that, I offer you $28 million. We can fight in April and this and that." And that's what people say. That's what people getting at. You never really hear Anthony Joshua speaking about fighting Deontay Wilder until Deontay Wilder has a fight lined up. Where was Anthony Joshua in September of 2018 when they was negotiating for 4 months, stalling Deontay Wilder's career out? He's trying to make the fight, accepting low ball offers, $15 million. With a contract with no date and no venue. Where was Anthony Joshua then? He wasn't doing any talking, doing any interviews. Was low key. Eddie Hearn was doing all the talking and stuff like that, saying, the fight is 75% chance of happening, and we're still talking, but time's running out. The WBA is wanting to have answers and this and that. We need to try to get the fight done. If not, we're gonna have to fight Pacquiao and this and that. He was doing all the talking. He was the front man. Anthony Joshua was somewhere in hibernation. Didn't even hear him talk. But then once it turned out that the negotiations wasn't nothing but a publicity stunt, a scam, Team Joshua, Eddie Hearn, a.k.a. Eddie Hearn, never wanted to actually make the fight. They was just doing what you call smoke and mirrors. Barry Hearn admitted it when he's out there on that fishing trip that they had. They had that matchroom fishing tournament. And he admitted that they didn't want that fight to happen until 2020. And Anthony Joshua, low-key didn't hear nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, didn't hear anything about him wanting to fight Deontay Wilder. But the groundswell of negativity from all the boxing fans came raining down on Anthony Joshua. And Anthony Joshua, felt he had to start making it like he really wanted to fight. And he started hearing them in interviews saying, "Yeah, I want to fight Wilder. I want that fight next. I want to make that fight. I want to make that fight next. I want to make that fight next." But if you want to make that fight next, you heard what Deontay Wilder told you. Deontay Wilder told you 50-50. And the fight can happen. So but you still saying, well, I don't know, I'm not gonna, you're being unrealistic. I can offer you $28 million and this and that. First of all, we're at a stage right now in the negotiations where it's not about offering anybody anything. It's all about coming to the table, finding out how much money the fight's going to generate. Will the fight be on the zone or will it be on Showtime pay-per-view? Which I think will generate more money. If the fight's going to generate $100 million in pay-per-view on Showtime, you split it 50-50 down a million. 50 million for Joshua and 50 million for Wilder. That's how you do it. We passed the point of offering anybody anything because you got two A-side fighters. There ain't no B-side in this equation. Anthony Joshua is the A-side in the UK. Deontay Wilder is the A-side in the US. The fight's going to be on pay-per-view in the UK and pay-per-view in the US if you want to maximize the most money in this fight. That's putting it on Showtime pay-per-view. So it's 50-50 down the middle. That's where it stands. If he wants to make the fight, he knows where Wilder stands, and the fight can be made. Meanwhile, Wilder is got his dance partner set up for pretty much the rest of 2019, as he's going to fight Dominic Brazil May 18th. After that, he's probably going to do a pay-per-view with Luis Ortiz, a rematch. sometime September, October range in there, and then maybe at the end of the year or early 2020 do a fight with Adam Konoski. You know, he's got his plans mapped out. He wants to be more active. You know, he basically probably lost a fight trying to negotiate that fight in September, wasting 4 months. He probably could have had a fight during that time. He wasted a potential fight with another top heavyweight contender when he was trying to get a fight set up with Anthony Joshua for September. When it finally came to light, Eddie Hearn didn't really want that fight to take place in September. He wanted to fight Povetkin, and he wanted to push that fight back to a later time. You know, you remember Papa Hearn said at the Matchroom fishing tournament that he didn't care if that fight ever took place, and at the earliest, if the fight did take place, the earliest it would be 2020. This is from Papa Hearn. And so this is for people that's involved in Anthony Joshua's career, people that's promoting Anthony Joshua. So that, you know, so you take those statements and then you can see why this fight hasn't happened yet. So we'll see what happens, man. Maybe that fight takes place in 2020, but it's definitely not going to take place in 2019. And you definitely can't blame Deontay Wilder because he tried to make the fight happen last year. He tried to make the fight happen on 3 different occasions, and every time that he tried to make the fight happen, Team Joshua was stonewalled. They didn't want no part of the fight, and they were just doing smoke and mirrors with the public, making it look like they wanted to fight, but in actuality they didn't want to fight. So we'll see what happens on that front. We'll see what happens. But Frank Warren, he spoke a lot of truth about that. Spoke a lot of truth about that. As far as Errol Spence and Sean Porter, that fight got pretty much close to a done deal, as Michael Copper said on his page, that fight is set to take place August 3rd. It's going to be on Fox, free Fox. You know, you got top 3 welterweights matching up, you know, in Barclays on free TV. That's a good matchup, man. I'm excited for that fight. You know, it's going to be a good matchup. You know, a lot of people thinking Errol Spence is going to run through Sean Porter. I don't see that happening. You know, I think Errol Spence definitely is the favorite, but I think it's going to be a very, very good, entertaining fight between 2 top fighters in the 147-pound welterweight division. You know, you got arguably the number 1 and number 2 welterweight in Errol Spence going against the number 3 welterweight in Sean Porter. So it's gonna be a good matchup, man. Sean Porter has never been dominated in none of his losses. You look at the fight with Keith Thurman. That was a very close, competitive fight, a back and forth fight. You know, both guys had their moments, and I thought Keith Thurman won the fight, but it was a very close fight. A lot of people thought Sean won the fight. Very, very, very exciting fight. Underrated fight, man. Underrated fight as far as the action in that fight and the level of punches that were thrown and punches that were landed, and high level aggression and high level ferocity in that fight was great, man. It was just a very, very good fight. To me, man, I think neither fighter has been the same after that fight. I think that fight was underrated, brutal fight. People talk about the Thriller Manila, you know. Ali said, you know, we went into that fight as champions, and after that fight, we left as old men. And this fight wasn't to that degree, but this was a brutal fight. You look at Sean Porter after this fight, he doesn't have the same, as far as ferocity and ferociousness, as far as being an aggressive fighter on the hunt for 12 rounds. He can do it in spots, as you saw he did it with Danny Garcia, as he first 3 or 4 rounds, he was trying to box a little bit more. You know, a lot of times he tried to side of him, and then after the first half of the fight, he started being more aggressive and going to the old Sean Porter game of boxing. He went to his aggressive, you know, physicality, pressure style of fighting, and he was able to win a narrow decision over Danny Garcia. You look at the fight with Sean Porter against Adrian Granados. He didn't look the same in that fight. You know, he came out of that fight very aggressive, just like the Sean Porter that fought Keith Thurman. But in the second half of the fight, he slowed down considerably, and Adrian Granados was actually bringing the fight to him. Actually had him backing up a little bit in the second half of that fight. So to me, Sean Porter has not is not the same fighter. Not to say, I'm not saying he's washed up. I'm not saying he's a mediocre fighter. I'm not saying none of that. I'm just saying he's not at the level he was before the Keith Thurman fight. He's still a top level fighter. When he fought Ugas, I thought Ugas beat him, but he was able to box Ugas and show a different side of Sean Porter. He kind of showed that side that he fought against. Didn't really show a different side because he actually fought a little bit like that against Danny Garcia, but the difference was he did it pretty much the whole fight against Ugas, and he was able to show that he could fight that style for the whole fight. And I think the reason why he's kind of going that style is the number one. I think it is to show that he's a complete fighter. He can fight. He can be an aggressive fighter, and he can be a boxer. He can box and show different angles and slip punches and use movement and in and out type of combinations. Use his jab and stuff like that to show that so that he's a versatile fighter. But I think number two is his dad, Kenny Porter. Kenny Porter, saw how brutal that fight was with Keith Thurman. He watched how he looked against Adrian Granados. Watched how he looked against Danny Garcia. And I think he said, well, we're gonna change this up, man. Sean's a little bit older. If you want him to have a little bit longer longevity, a longer career, be able to fight a little bit longer, maybe fight in his mid to late 30s. If they want to do that, he's gonna have to change the style of fighting. He can't fight that type of style, man. That type of style of fighting doesn't lend itself to a long career in boxing. So I think that's part of it, and I think I think that's part of it too, man. The fight with Keith Thurman took a little bit out of Sean Porter. He had to change it up and show that he could fight a different way to preserve himself, man. Give himself a chance to, because he's at the stage of his career where he's gonna be in big money fight. He's gonna make more money than he made early in his career. So he's got to do what's best for him to preserve his body and maximize his career as far as monetary and longevity. So we'll see what happens, man. I don't think Keith Thurman is the same fight he was after the Sean Porter fight. You look at when he fought Danny Garcia. He beat Danny. He won that fight basically in the first half of the fight. First 8 rounds, he probably won at least 5 or 6 of those rounds. He was able to hold off Danny in the second half of that fight, but he didn't show the same ferocity and ferociousness for 12 rounds like he did with Sean Porter. He fought a half a fight against Danny. First half and the second half, he was pretty much riding the clock out, as they say. He pretty much rode the clock out. He felt he had a big enough lead, and he basically said all he had to do is maybe win 1 or 2 of the last 6 rounds, and he could win a decision. He was able to win a split decision against Danny Garcia, but he hasn't shown that same level of aggressiveness and ferocity that he showed in the Sean Porter fight. He hasn't had the knockouts he had since he stepped up in competition either. But I think it's so much. I don't think that's that he's doesn't have the power. I just think once you step up and fight A-level fighters or guys at elite level, the knockouts are not going to come. You look at Triple G. When he stepped up in competition, he wasn't knocking nobody out either. Danny Jacobs, both fights with Canelo, he wasn't knocking nobody out. You know what I'm saying? So, when you step up in competition and fight elite level fighters, the knockouts are not going to always be like they was when you were fighting guys on your way up. So we'll see what happens, man. But Sean Porter versus Errol Spence is going to be a good fight. I like I like Errol Spence to win that fight. I'll be breaking that fight down as we get closer to the fight. But it's going to be an exciting fight, and it's going to be a good fight to look at, man. I don't see what a lot of other people seeing. They thinking Errol's going to stop Sean and knock him out and destroy him. I don't see that happening. He might stop Sean, but if he does, that'll be in the latter part of that fight, if it happens at all, due to Errol Spence's body work, jab, and systematically breaking down Porter. But Porter don't seem like he's the type of guy that's gonna lay down or quit or submit to anything. I think he'll be battling all the way to the end. So we'll see what happens, man. I'll break that fight down as we get closer to the fight, man. Again, they're looking at that fight for August 3rd or September 1st. They'll be looking for that fight. That fight's gonna be sandwiched in between the Manny Pacquiao pay-per-view fight in July and Deontay Wilder versus King Kong Ortiz pay-per-view fight in September and October. So we're going to have some good fights coming up in July, August, September, and September, October with those three fights getting lined up. So we'll see what happens with that. A lot of boxing. We'll see what happens. Again, this is JB Sports. Man, the myth, the legend. I holla.